I didn't get a whole lot written today, just about a little over 150 words. Basically amounted to about a paragraph. Um, yeah, so the reason for this was that I got some news this morning that's basically had me all day reevaluating and sort of considering where I want to go with my next, what basically what I want to do with the next year of my life, but also the direction I want to go in with my writing. For a bit of a quick backstory, about, I'd say, I think it had to be like 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, I had finished a prior novel before the one that I'm working on now. It was my thesis for my MFA. I had finished it, and I ended up querying several agents at the time, and I got one like Zoom interview with an agent, and everything else was just straight rejections. And the long story with the Zoom interview, we kind of went over some things and the potential direction with the novel I'd have that they were looking for me to make some corrections and some changes to. I felt at the time that it didn't quite match the vision for what I wanted the novel to be, so I basically didn't go forward with it. Fast forward to about November of last year, so about 4 months ago, I ended up querying a small indie press, and basically set the novel off. I heard back on the query, which was excellent. I heard, and they were looking for a full manuscript request, so I sent the full manuscript in right around, I think it was like New Year's, like the day after New Year's, I sent it in. So it's been about, I think probably about 10 weeks now since I sent it to them. I heard back this morning, I got an email. And basically, the email was very similar to what the agent had said, which was, at this time, they're not necessarily looking to publish it, but if I could get my story revised, they'd be interested in retaking a look at it again and basically going forward with potentially a publishing deal for it. And so a lot of that leads to right now where I am now kind of reconsidering what I want to do. All of today was just me kind of it's not really moping, but like just me sort of sitting around trying to figure out where I want to go with this. The suggested corrections were basically the same thing the agent had said, so I it's good, I guess, in the sense that that's a consistent sort of feedback where if they don't tell me that, a critic and a reader, what have you, will say the same thing if I ever like went and got it self-published or something like that. So the feedback is the same, and now I just have to decide if I want to make those corrections and sort of alter the way the story is presented and sort of change a bit of the content of the story. Yeah, so I'm not sure yet. It's partly obviously the challenge of just deciding if I want to make the correction, the challenge of doing it. It would basically be a rewrite for most of the book, not necessarily a structural rewrite, but more a rewrite in the narrative voice. That was kind of the main issue, was just the voice. I most likely end up having to change the entire tense over and change some of the voice there. So it's more or less a bit of an overhaul. So substantially, it'll be the same story, but just the way it would be told would be different. And with the story, the way the voice and the way it's told and the way I've said it, that's sort of the heart of the story in many ways. The way I've told it is kind of the hook, the key thing, which is my apprehension. On top of the fact that obviously I'm working, I've got the first draft of the novel I was currently working on that I'm about to start doing revisions on as well. It's it's balancing both projects at the same time, and it's a matter of if I want to take it on or not. So I don't really have an answer at the moment here. I'm telling myself that I kind of probably in the best position I've been in probably in my life at this point, just because I'm still on that sabbatical right there. And so if I wanted to split my days in half in between revisions of the new novel and revisions of the novel I had queried, potentially that might work out. And I think after all this sort of like, dilly-dallying around trying to figure out what I want to do, I think that's what it's going to end up being. But for today, that was what I had spent a lot of time on, was just kind of reflection on what I want to do, if I want to put the time into doing it, and if I'm okay with making those corrections to my story. And to be honest, it's there's a sort of lesson in all this, in that your story has to be your story. Your what you tell, it needs to be yours. But there is no correct way to do anything. There are just good ways, great ways, excellent ways, but they're varying degrees. But there's no objectively right or wrong way to do this sort of thing. And so would me changing it, would that, take it from a great story, at least in my opinion, to as equally great story? Would it make it an excellent story? Would it, as I fear, make it maybe from a great story to a good story, but be published and be in front of the world? It's a lot of things to sort of weigh out. And yeah, like I said, it's not something that anyone, if you ever find yourself in a similar position to this, it's one of those things where no one's ever going to give you the answer you're looking for. You can't really ask anybody. I mean, yeah, you can obviously solicit advice, but ultimately it's going to come down to just taste, which I guess makes it easy in the sense that you're not, it doesn't require a lot of work. It doesn't require a lot of blood, sweat, tears, basically just to make a decision. It's simply a choice. It's just an evaluation of where your values lie. Do you want to make this change? Are you okay with the change? And if you are okay with the change, are you willing to put the effort in to make it? And so it's a lot of reflective. It's just a period of reflection, and so I imagine probably the next couple of days it's going to be kind of just sort of thinking this over, but I'm certain by the end of this whole thing that I'm probably going to end up just agreeing to make the changes and going through and spending, say, the next 6 months revising that story as well. Yeah, so I guess pretty exciting thing in its own way, as sort of depressing as it is. I was, obviously when you get that news, you're sort of hoping that you'll get the yes, that we're ready to publish it. Let's discuss the deal here. You'll have to make some small corrections here and there, but at the same time, it's obviously better than a no, right? At the end of the day, I mean, how many people basically that ever hear back from any publisher or any agent at all with anything positive like this? I am at, it's not common. So, with that, I guess I'll kind of hang my hat on that for right now, and just evaluate and see where I want to go with this other story going forward.